I will have the invocation by Commissioner Safely.
Beautiful day, and we thank you for this beautiful city you've given us, and we pray, Lord, that you'll be with us tonight and help us to make decisions that will be within your will and further what is best for the city, for all of us. And we pray this in the name of Jesus.
Amen. All right, can I roll call?
Commissioner Ashworth,
Here.
Commissioner Thorne,
Here.
Commissioner Clark,
Here.
Commissioner Mack,
Here.
Commissioner Jordan,
Here.
Commissioner Hawkins,
Here.
Commissioner Skeen,
Here.
Commissioner Safley.
Here.
Has everyone had opportunity to review the minutes?
Yes, sir.
If so, is there a motion to approve the minutes?
Motion. Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Safley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mack,
Abstain.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
All right, the first item is PL 1856, Highway 51, Mini Storage Variance. Request for a variance for a gravel parking. The subject property is located on the east side of Highway 51, north of Memphis Street, in Section 21, Township 3, Range 8, and is Zone C2. Mortgage Falls, representing the Highway 51 Mini Storage, LLC. Mr. Cardozo, we present the planning staff report and comments.
Yes, sir. We have two variances tonight on the same piece of property. The first of which is PL 1856. The request is to allow for a gravel parking lot as an accessory to mini storage use. The applicant's Jason Canada, the owner of the property. He's represented tonight by Morgan Falls, the engineer representing tonight's application. The subject property is currently Zone C2, Highway Commercial. The proposed plat to create this lot was approved on July 19th, 2022, and the conditional use was recently extended at our last Planning Commission meeting. The setbacks are listed in your staff report, which are typical for the C2 zoning. And for the next two applications, in the discussion portion of the staff report, I'll just read them for the record, but they're the same for the next application as well. That the special conditions and circumstances that exist are peculiar to land structures or buildings involved and are not generally applicable to other land structures or buildings in the same district. That the literal enforcement of the provisions of these standards would deprive the applicant of rights commonly enjoyed by other properties within the same district under the terms of the ordinance. The special conditions and circumstances do not result from the actions of the applicant, are not based upon economic considerations, and granting the variance requested would not confer on the applicant any special privilege that is otherwise denied by the ordinance, other lands, structures, or buildings in the same district. And the applicant did provide responses to each of those items. If you look on the fourth page of your staff report, you can see the portion of the site that they're requesting for the asphalt, or excuse me, the gravel system to be installed in lieu of asphalt. It's on the southern portion of the site. It would be limited to that portion. The rest of the site and access to Highway 51 would be asphalt. And then you can see the buffer yard that's required around the site. All that's still going through formal design review, but you see the general limitations of where that would be located along with the buildings. And so the first application tonight is to request a gravel system on the southern portion of the lot. I did include a proposed motion to approve or deny, however you see fit in the staff report. The applicant's here, and I'm available if you got any questions.
Any of the commissioners have any questions for Mr. Cardozo? All right. Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety?
Morgan Falls, Rockfield Engineering, 6167 Kerbo Lane, Olive Branch, Mississippi. And I guess, do y'all have any questions about this? I do have one question. I thought the way I presented in the variance request, that as a part of making this gravel, we're also going to eliminate some curb and gutter. That's adjacent to the stormwater detention and that stormwater conveyance as well, as it all kind of ties together, that using the gravel and eliminating the curb and gutter provides us better drainage scenario as we're moving forward, so we're not having to channelize that and send it to the stormwater conveyance. It provides an extra value there for us from an engineering perspective, and so the curb and gutter kind of goes with that. But it's just specific to, obviously the gravel's just that portion of the site, and the curb and gutter is the same thing. It's just where allowing sheet flow would be better than channelizing that flow heading towards that existing stormwater conveyance. And then, yeah, if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
So it looks like it's roughly, approximately about a third of the site is what I'm seeing, is that what everybody else is seeing, roughly?
Yes, sir.
Did the request include, I guess, the request to, and this may be your confusion as well.
Yes,
That's what I'm
that's-
asking. Does it include the request to, I guess, no longer need the curb and gutter? Is that
So only on the gravel portion, though.
only on the, okay, that is part of the.
Yes, sir.
That is part of what the proposal is, I guess.
But you're asking for it to be eliminated by the retention pond as well?
Well, yeah, I mean, the detention pond would at least have to put openings there, as well, but, yes, in my mind, it included that little part along the detention pond as well. And we replaced kind of a buffer with a landscape hedge screen there. But yes, I mean, it's all related to runoff, sheet flow runoff, allowing it on site.
One of the things that I saw mentioned was that it was, mentioned that the natural vegetation is, I saw it somewhere in here.
Yes,
Alleviates, obscures the view from the
Correct.
public.
Step 4, applicant response.
Okay, I knew I saw it somewhere. And I guess my question is, if something, is that natural vegetation on your property and intended to remain?
Yes.
I just want to make sure that wasn't something somebody else could tear down.
correct. The perimeter of the site you see how the site kind of bumps out. I mean, and you've got two parcels that are in front of it. Behind the main parcel, the parcel that's directly in front of the main portion that we're developing, that right now is open field area, but where their property line is coming all the way down to the lower southern edge and then wrapping back around to the residential is the stormwater conveyance. And that stormwater conveyance is pretty much on the property line, and there's a good 50, 60 feet worth of vegetation on our side of that stormwater conveyance that we are not going to touch as a part of this, neither short-term nor long-term. I mean, it is kind of integral to that system, and there's no point in taking it out and introducing, again, possible drainage issues that don't need to be created. And so, other than a little corner where we're gonna have to get into a little bit, but it's not really any big trees, that's mostly gonna stay intact along the southern edges and the road frontage, well, it's not even frontage, but on the road side of where that parking is gonna be.
Is that the purpose, the request of the variance for better drainage?
Yes,
We're trying
it's
to
a lot of
understand
sheet
the motivation
flow.
behind the applicant.
Well, from a site development perspective, the short-term use or the immediate use plan for that area is going to be, parking storage spot, RV boat.
Right.
And so it's not gonna have a lot of traffic on it, it's mostly just gonna be people coming occasionally to pick up, drop off. And so having the gravel there it doesn't feel like from a site perspective, it's gonna be fenced off, the only people going back there are gonna be from, accessing their spots as they're leasing. And it won't be used as like a main drive aisle around the site, so the lack of an asphalt or concrete pavement there doesn't feel like it's gonna be a big impact. Not a lot of traffic on it, so dust control, we didn't feel like those were gonna be issues, and then just maintaining that portion over there, that part of the site as natural, closer to natural. I mean, gravel's not vegetation, but it's also not asphalt when it comes to generating runoff. And so it just helps with the drainage aspects of things. And then it really, from a sheet flow perspective, allowing it to sheet flow, not being taught by curb and gutter, and channelizing it. And then having to find a way into that stormwater conveyance, it's very beneficial from an engineering perspective.
Austin, that buffer it's a required landscape buffer because it goes up to the residential areas.
That's correct. Yeah, the stuff you see on the eastern side of the site is having to be built and planted. That's the wall and the landscape plantings, just because there's not a natural vegetative screen. The stuff on the southern portion of the site, they're utilizing as their screen because it's actually encouraged in the ordinance to keep, if you have 50 foot of woods, it's better than tearing it down and putting new trees up.
Right. Yeah, I just knew there was a
Yes, so
setback from commercial to residential because it touches residential on three sides.
the 30-foot buffer yard is the dash line that's kind of halfway between the edge of our site slash edge of the existing vegetation, not our site, but development. So it's almost kind of twice what the standard buffer yard would be with the existing vegetation is already accomplishing.
I mean, my,
Commercial to residential supposed to be 50 feet though?
It's a type 35 is what's
30.
required, and so there's a couple ways. You can do walls, you can do berms, you can do landscape plantings. There's lots of different ways. So that's what's required all around it. The stuff that you see on the south end where the bubbles are is that natural buffer that they're leaving. And so it goes above and beyond what that 35-foot would have required.
I'm just looking at the north end, it's like 30 feet.
you may want to turn it up there where you
Yeah.
can see where you're talking.
That's gonna be, while he's doing that, that's gonna be open on the south end, isn't it, where the gravel is proposed? It's not gonna be covered, I guess, covered parking.
Honestly, I'm not sure at the moment.
Okay. I just was thinking about how that might affect runoff.
I'm not, at this point in time, we're not, that aspect of the design has not been finalized. And to be honest with you, as a site engineer, I'm not leading those conversations, so I'm not 100% sure what the answer is at this moment. I know there have been conversations kind of both ways with it.
That would affect the runoff though, wouldn't it?
Correct. And that would also change the potential dynamic there of what that situation would be. Because having the gravel there, I mean, you still could, but now you're putting in a structure, it kind of changes some of the calculus in the area. But, I mean, the gravel from there to the edge of the site, I guess it depends on if the whole thing was covered, but if you had, I mean, anything that's slowing and spreading that water back out is gonna be beneficial, depending upon how it's handled from the roof drainage itself, if it's not encapsulated with gutters to begin with. So,
Yeah, my biggest concern is, I guess we have 3 new storage, the most recent storage buildings built in the city, and I think all of them are all concrete. The one down by Renaissance Park that has the covered parking, and I guess the other 2 would be over off of Backingville by Toyota, and then that newer one right there. Like I say, I know part of the application mentions the buildings in front of the property, but, I mean, those has got to be from the 70s and 80s, before the regulations have changed and ordinances have changed.
How do you keep striping on it to delineate the parking areas on a gravel surface? That's a tough thing to do.
so a lot of times where you're talking about either just a standard gravel lot, or if you use like a reinforced turf type lot, or even a gravel system that has the integrated, for a lot of those, you use almost like right-of-way markers, like little concrete monuments that set the corners, and then you have those act as kind of the striping for you. It's what you see typically with both a grass pavement system or a gravel pavement system where you need to have delineated lines.
Do you have a plan for that, or is that just options right now?
It's just options right now, to be honest. I mean,
Last
Is
thing
that-
you need is a 30-foot RV you park in there.
coming in
Take up-
sideways.
Take up 3 spots.
Now, what is roughly the acreage of that gravel parking area? Is it a couple of acres? The
I
whole
want to say it's
site's,
an acre
whole
and a
site's
half to 2
7.
acres, but I can't.
I don't see that.
I think the whole site is almost 7.
Yeah, it's probably a couple of acres. Is there an issue with, like, runoff and sediment in the future from gravel?
Is there an issue with sediment from the gravel?
Yeah, I mean, you have fines in it.
It wouldn't, I mean, if it's properly set in there and compacted, it's not gonna generate more runoff than if it was just loose soils that were sitting there. And if you talk about, from perspective of runoff, if we take all that and we channelize it, and then is the exhibit, we would have to run, the way I envision it in my head currently, if we wind up using a concrete or asphalt pavement there, is that we would probably put in about 15 to 20 foot wide, couple drainage swells along there that are gravel to convey the water from the point at which I'm concentrating them with the curb and gutter and the asphalt, because we will be increasing the runoff velocity and decreasing the runoff time, so it's all getting there at once. That will then have to convey the water from that point to the stormwater conveyances to prevent the erosion that occurs downstream. If it's able to stay in a sheet flow condition and also be slowed down by the gravel versus the asphalt, then your erosion conditions at the points that it's entering, you're gonna have less flow at a lower velocity occurring at any one given point on site.
Yeah, looking at this contour map, it looks like it goes to that southwest corner. I mean, it's a steep drop off right at that southwest corner.
Yes, to the buildings in the front, toward Highway 51, it is a fairly large drop off down that stormwater conveyance in the direction along there and on the south side.
And how does that, Austin, did you pull up the contour map? I think it's after,
Do I have it in there?
yeah, it's after it's that page number.
I got you.
Is this the survey?
Page 9, maybe.
Yeah, land title survey.
Yep.
Yeah, that southwest corner, that goes right up against that residential neighborhood.
But
How are we draining it from there?
I think that's heading back to 51.
yeah, at that point, what would flow towards the residential neighborhood to the south would be primarily what is off of the site that we're not developing at all. A little strip of the gravel will probably allow to keep flowing that way.
Oh, I see, that's into that wooded area right there.
Yes, so the runoff will not be direct, it flows east to west. The site does, until you get to the breakover point that you're starting to go downhill to the stormwater conveyance. So we're not gonna send water that direction. It's just to maintain the flow that's going. The overall layout will continue to flow towards the front of the site and not towards the residential. We'll be changing that condition.
Back to west, okay.
Correct.
Any other questions for the applicant?
May I ask a question?
Oh, you get a chance. All right, thank you. Anyone in support or against this item, please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety.
My name's Tammy Shaneyfeld. I live at 71 North Parkway, and our backyard is facing the mini storage area. And I'm not really sure, just by listening to what y'all were saying, what you mean to do for the runoff, because there's already a ditch kind of between our property and that lot, and it fills up. I mean, it runs over into our yard if it's a heavy rain, and I just wondered which way this water's supposed to flow that he was talking about. Oh, can you answer that?
Okay.
I'm looking at your house. You're on the east edge.
Yeah, this is my husband, Stephen
And,
Sean.
from what I just understand, the water's gonna be redirected back to the west, away from your neighborhood. Is that how I understand it?
Yes, so, is it okay if I walk up to the screen?
Yeah.
So you're just below where the pipe that's coming from North Parkway comes in. And it comes in and the stormwater conveyance becomes channelized through here,
Right.
correct? And at this point, it's pretty well defined before it comes around the corner.
Well, the question I got, and I had this 2 years ago when they had this meeting, has anybody walked that lot? Because the east side of that, where our house is, that's probably a 6-foot bank.
Is yours in the going up position or the going down position?
Well, it's going up from our.
Okay. Yes, so it comes, when the stormwater conveyance comes around, the bank on the residential side, it is pretty much non-existent. It is not a well-defined channel on this side of it. And the contours come down and then it comes, and it kind of comes to a low flat spot along the backyards here. And it becomes a well-defined channel again once it takes around the corner. The runoff from the site flows towards the front buildings. And based upon the survey data, the existing vegetation line is kind of the top of that bank where it starts sloping off. And the drainage that falls there flows towards the residential neighborhoods, but everything that lands on the grassy area flows more generally to the front. And once we come in and start grading out the site, ours will be graded where everything flows in this direction,
Toward 51.
toward 51. So we won't be sending extra runoff towards any of the residential neighborhoods because the natural contours of the site are generally flowing towards 51. And we don't want to work against that. So it'll make our lives harder and be worse.
So currently, it's generally flowing back to the west, and then when you grade it, you're gonna steepen that grade even more? So it,
No, it'll be, the site has got about 5 to 6 feet of fall across it as you're going across. We can pull the contour map, look again, and we'll basically add a little bit, build up the front and lower the rear
That's
just a little
what-
bit.
yeah.
And so we will make more of a tabletop there than already is as it's coming across. And it'll be graded, you can see you got 5 feet of fall across the front of it. We don't want that much of a slope going across our site. So we're gonna come in and take down a lot of the back, take a couple feet off the back. That will move to the front a little bit to give us a flatter site.
I think that what your concern is, you don't want the water to roll over the back into
Right.
into that.
So, yeah, so it'll stay, everything that lands, that we're developing, basically the highest point of our development activity will be this line of the site. We will start there and begin grading away. And it has to be because there's you don't see it on here, but you can actually kind of see right there. There's a sewer force main that runs along this edge that's gonna be in the buffer yard between us and the residential. It's actually just a little bit outside the buffer yard, but it's right on the edge of it. And so we can't get back there and touch that. So we have to keep going away, but we also need to make more of a, smooth it out a little bit. So we'll have to come in from a little bit from that, come down, kind of be a little bit flatter. And then the front will be probably brought up a foot or two before it goes in. Well, it won't be in this area because this will be allowed to be a little bit lower than where the buildings will be. But yes, it'll actually be flatter and a more intentional drainage flowing in this direction once we develop the site.
So the gravel parking area will drain northwesterly toward the detention basin.
Where is the retention basin gonna be?
It'll go,
So it's over behind Quality Cabinets.
Correct.
Can you show
There's
that, Austin, that, site plan?
And they're saying behind your house is roughly approximately 50 feet of undisturbed landscaping buffer.
Well,
Well,
that's scrub brush.
Yeah,
It's not-
it's,
Yeah,
there's nothing,
They're in the part where we will be establishing the buffer yard. They're not along the.
Oh, okay.
they're still gonna, I mean, I know this isn't what you're talking about right now, but I'm still thinking back from 2 years ago, and they were talking about a 12-foot brick fence down that east side. Is that still on the table, or have y'all changed that?
Down the east side, it will, we're required by ordinance to put that in.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I'm not sure, I think it's 8 feet. It's an 8
When
foot.
what y'all put in the thing here, it was a exterior wall 12 feet 8 inches.
Okay,
It's actually on our,
but yes,
you can
where
see it on our
the,
next
Yeah.
item, and Austin will be able to pull.
yeah, the building elevations are part of the second variance, where they're
I
shown.
know I'm jumping ahead, but I just wanted to ask that question.
But yeah,
I think that's gonna affect the drainage on the east side if the wall's here. It'll help. I'm more worried about, I know you're telling me it's gonna go east to west.
Right.
They built a house next door to us that was lower than us, they built it up, and it flowed right into our yards. The DEQ wouldn't do anything, city planning wouldn't do anything about it, and they flooded our yard with mud. I really don't wanna go through that again.
correct. So, yeah, you are at the point where it starts, where the area that is buffer yard, that will be buffer yard, so it does start sloping back towards your direction there, but we are not gonna do any development that is getting into the contours as they slope towards you. We will stay on top of the hill. And that's part of the reason, part of the motivation for maintaining the existing vegetation and the existing, except for we're coming in a little bit right here to square it off, is to have the separation from all that grade change. We do not want to go in there and affect that either. First, do no harm kind of a thing. Like, if there's an existing stormwater conveyance there with vegetation all around it, I don't wanna come in there and rip it out and start doing work in it, because I may make it better, I may not. If I stay away from it, it at least is what it is. And in this situation, we will probably direct some of the runoff that was heading that direction now more consistently to the west than what it does now. Because basically from the point of our development, that eastern edge of our development will be the highest point of the land that we develop. What is off of us will stay going up or going down, depending upon the scenario going around. But essentially, you take a 5-foot offset of that, other than where we're gonna be planting trees, we're not gonna come in and disturb any of that land during the course of construction.
I am, back to the whole gravel thing, I am concerned about a dust factor blowing in on us, because my patio faces that.
Right.
As soon as I sit out on my patio and get covered in dirt.
Again, from a dust control perspective, because it's not gonna be used for traffic to be moving on it a lot, which would be breaking it up and tearing it up and throwing it up in the air, I did not come at it from the perspective of that was going to be a major issue moving forward. I understand the fact that if you got,
But it's not in your backyard.
if you got trailer drop yards or you got something like that where you've got the stuff coming in and out, or contractors' places, they got trucks moving in and out all the time. I understand that the dust control can be a real issue with that if they don't go out there and keep it wet, or if they don't use the right kind of a mixture, because you can do it without having heavy fines in the gravel and still get good interlocking gravel that works as a base for your material, and you don't really have to rely upon those dusty fines that wind up getting picked up. It does get crushed up over time, but the traffic load is what creates that disturbance and really kicks it up into the air. And so, I'm not saying that you're thinking of a gravel yard that's gonna be parked on dust isn't a concern there. It just, I didn't think that was going to be a major concern here because of how little use it was gonna be getting of traffic coming in now.
That's the site of this, if we need to explore that.
Oh, sorry, I have an out-of-town member of the design team on the phone. Can I, do you want to introduce her to the microphone? She's more for the next variance than this one, but.
Well, as far as traffic is concerned, I'm sorry, this is Rachel Parham with Noah's Ark Self-Storage and RV Boat Parking. We build these, I'm in Bulverde, Texas, and I run Noah's Ark Development as the president, and we develop across the United States. The reason we have gravel RV boat parking normally is because it's just a parking lot, so they come and they stay for long periods of times, and then they come and remove their RV or their boat whenever they need it. So it's not meant for heavy traffic. We're looking at maybe 2 cars a month that come in and utilize the gravel road area of this development. And that's from experience because we do own a mini RV boat parking areas across the country, and this is one of them where we figured the gravel is a lot less environmentally, it's better for the environmental impact, and we felt like this would work a lot better for this area, especially where the drainage is. So that was my input.
Where do we get 2 cars per month?
She's saying
Yeah.
is that per tenant? Because maybe that's per tenant.
The 2 cars per month would be total, Rachel?
Yes.
That's what you're thinking?
Usually what happens is they come and they park it.
Because once they park it, they forget about it?
Leave it for
Well, hold on. Where are we getting 2 cars per month? Where's that data coming from?
I don't believe that. I keep my RV stored in a lot. And
Oh, yeah, I mean-
I probably go 2 times a month myself, at least.
It's based upon the actual numbers they get from, because you've got, these are secured.
How many
Here.
lots, how many spots do we have for here?
56?
Yep.
So if one tenant, if that's full and 1 tenant per month, that's what? Or two per month, that's 100 and some odd cars going in and out of there a month.
Over the course of a month.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking average, right? In the middle of the summer, I come get my boat every weekend. I come get my RV to go camping every weekend. And I get, some people park their trailer and they don't touch it for 8 months.
Right, it goes
I mean,
both ways.
but you can't predict that every tenant is gonna park it and forget it. You have to predict that a tenant is gonna use it as alternate parking so that they can park their RV and their boat, so they can come get it every weekend and go down to Pickwick Lake. So now you're looking at 4 to 5 times a month, depending on the month, per tenant, depending on the type of vehicle they park. So I'm just curious where 2 cars per month, where'd that data come from? Because that seems like I picked that out of the sky.
I do apologize. It is very hard to hear, but I think the question was how many cars per month and how I get that information. We have 2 facilities that have over 100 parking spots that are on gravel road for RV boats. And in all honesty, all of our facilities do have RV boat parking, but this one in particular these 2 particular have over 100. And what happens, and what I mean by 2 cars a month, I mean driving the facility and parking, and then driving around the gravel lot. So when they come in, when I say 2 cars a month, that means that they utilize the gate, and they come in, they pick up their vehicle, and then they leave. And that is for a standard RV boat tenant.
Per
The
tenant.
gravel road doesn't produce enough, I guess there's not enough driving on it. It's like if you circled around the parking lot like you would do a normal storage facility, where you drive in, access your storage unit, and then drive out the gate. The RV boat parking is an average of 2 cars per month based on 100 stalls. And by stalls, I mean spaces, per month. So they actually do leave it, and then during the season of boating and RVing and the summer seasons, we see a pickup, but it's only by like 4 or 5 cars because they usually take their vehicle and they utilize it for the 4 months that is seasonal, and then they bring it back and they park it again. So we really are a storage facility for boat and RV. We're not a utilization for in and out like you would normally see in like commercial buildings or trucking facilities and things like that, where they come in and out every day. We're not like that. So they usually take their RV for the 4 months that they're gone. And this has been many years of research and owning these facilities that we get to see that.
May I ask another question on the ordinance of that other locations? Because the ordinance here is you can't park an RV or a boat in a driveway, so residents of Hernando are not going to pull their boat out and then go park it in their driveway for the season. They have to take it back to storage. So they would take it back in and out inside this city limits here, because they're not allowed to park it, like take it out and leave it in their driveway. So is other cities have that ordinance, or is that?
No, they really don't have that ordinance, and only if it was full on like trucking traffic where they make you put down a bed of soil and then a gravel stabilizer underneath it, and those big trucking companies that do the in and out. But for boat and RV, like San Angelo, Texas, with a big lake beside San Angelo, we see a lot of in and out. But what they do is they come and hitch and they pull it out, but they're not driving on the gravel as if they were a trucking company backing up, moving forward constantly every day of every week. It's more of like, okay, we're coming to pitch it, we're pulling it out, and then we're taking it, and then they take it for the weekend, they bring it back, and then it sits for week, 2 weeks on end. I think that average may pick up during the like seasonal period, but during our off-seasonal period, and a lot of times our tenants just leave it there, it really comes down to an average about 2 cars per month for RV boat. For storage, it's a little different. We're looking at 10 to 15 cars per day, and that is on the paving. Versus the RV boat, it's more like 2 cars per month with a yearly average.
I think the concern here, the question on the table is how do we mitigate the dust? Whether it's
So
two
instead of
cars a month or
using-
20 cars a month.
Instead of using a crusher run, you go with number 8 stone and number 6 stone kind of base, so you have no fines in it whatsoever.
You're talking over my head at that point. I don't know.
I mean,
Use a bigger rock.
yes, use a bigger rock. Instead of using,
Thanks, Max.
instead of using, there are ways to design the actual gravel bed itself in such a way that it does not encourage that the gravel produces fines, or that you are using gravel that has fines included in it. Use a wash stone. And if you've got the right kind on it, and the right mixture, it's able to lock in. It doesn't need all those fines in there if you're coming in with it designed that way.
So Austin, is that something we can add to the variance, that there's that type of material, or at a minimum, this material or better, in order to reduce that dust factor?
I mean, if he offers that as a condition, I'm sure we can incorporate that in the
That's a
language.
condition, though, not a variance.
But is the variance does run with the land, so this will go with the life of this property. And so ongoing maintenance may be an issue. I don't know how.
Well, as a planning commissioner, I'm thinking 5 years from now, after you wear down that bed of use, and then the owner, how do we hold the owner accountable to lay a new bed of gravel down or wet it down periodically to keep the dust?
I mean, that's the trouble with the variance. It runs with the land. There's not really an ongoing catch.
Because it's not the owner of the property, I mean, the land, not the business, right?
Because it's not a condition, it's not part of the
Yeah,
condition.
right.
Yeah, that's right.
And I think another thing that Commissioner Jordan brought up that, I mean, could play a factor in this decision is the covered parking or non-covered parking. Because that could totally change the drainage situation in the whole. I'll defer to Skeen here, our resident
Runoff.
engineer.
Well, the other, yeah, if it's covered, then, and I had a question. One of the other things you have to worry about is in the future, if somebody paves this, if you just design this detention basin, you know, to handle a gravel parking area that has less runoff, and then some years later, somebody paves it, then,
It's gonna be designed as if that's a building actually there.
okay, yeah.
I'm just gonna assume at some point in time, a building's gonna be put there.
Yeah, something that's gonna be,
So from a detention design and from calculation design, I am going to design the detention pond as if one day a building was built there, because in a perfect world, it's successful, the business grows, you want to come back and add a building later. I mean, whether it's this tenant, this client, another person at some point in time, the odds of that never being anything other than a gravel lot is zero, or isn't zero, but it's low. So, I mean, yes, from a detention pond, from a capacity standpoint, yes, I would treat that gravel area not as a gravel bed, but as a future paved and with building on it.
Okay.
And at that point in time, if that were to happen, you would anticipate coming in with roof drains that tie into the pipe network system that routes it to the pond as is, as opposed to, kind of what I'm thinking right in the current condition is that it allows the sheet flow that exists on those areas of the site to continue in its current condition. Everything off, stays off, everything that's on the gravel is allowed to just flow towards the stormwater conveyance, but at a reasonable rate, and then everything else is captured and sent to the pond. And it winds up being released at the same point. But again, the pond will be sized as if one day the entire thing is paved and all of the runoff is captured and routed to the pond. It's just, that's not what the client is doing today.
I've
Gotcha.
got a question.
Okay.
If you gravel it, that means you remove all the vegetation that's there. So now you've got a flatter, slicker surface that you're gonna let water just run off of.
No, but it's not gonna be a slick surface.
Well, I mean, you're removing all the vegetation. There's no undergrowth, nothing to hold the water and let it soak into the ground. It's gonna run off.
Right, but we're talking about comparing that to an asphalt or concrete. So, SCS runoff curb the gravel is between leaving it vegetated and putting an asphalt or concrete down, as far as the amount of runoff is gonna be increased. So the gravel is in between. It is more than the grass, but it is less than asphalt or concrete would be.
But if you did asphalt, you'd have to lay pipe to the retention pond, correct?
If we laid asphalt, we would put in curb and gutter, and we would then capture it and run a gravel swell and actually get into and start touching the ditch with another pipe, or another point of access from drainage, most likely.
Into the retention pond. Is that what you're talking
No,
about?
not along this edge, not in the short term.
So we'll be listening to crunching gravel when everybody's driving. We're sitting on our back porch.
I do have another question about gravel, and I understand what you're saying as far as using the different size rock and things like that. So if you have your fine deeper and you're going on the top with a larger rock to try and mitigate the dust, over time, is that not with RVs and such driving on it with the weight and it settles in, is that not going to pack in eventually as fines just work their way to the top where then it becomes an issue?
In our experience, and from an engineering perspective, the gravel from a maintenance perspective, the facility comes in and updates it before that it gets to that point, because it will become detrimental for them before it became,
But I mean, if you come
before you're
in,
creating that situation.
if you come in and maintenance, if it's getting rutted or whatever, they're going to grade it. Now you're digging into it, you're shifting that around, you're getting closer to the fines, which are stirring that up, bringing it closer to the top. The only way to prevent that is continue to overlay large rock on top of it and let it pack down. Is that not the case?
If we're talking forever, yes, your statement is factual.
Okay.
But I mean, in the life of the facility that we're talking about, it's not,
But we can't
It's-
determine the life, we can't determine when there may or may not be a building there.
Right.
Or what's going to change. It could be that way from now on. That could be the life of it.
Because this variance stays with the property, whether the owners at whoever company you're working for keeps it or sells it in 5 years or whatever, the variance, it stays with the property for the life, is what we're saying, so. We do have to look at it long term.
having that area be gravel. Sorry, I'm trying to think of, it kind of goes back to the notion of a way that the motion can be stated that adds the protection in there. I understand what you're saying when it comes to that specifically. We're talking about 100 years from now. which
We did, what did we do?
51.
John Stevenson brought in a variance on a similar facility on
He,
Memphis Street.
Did pavement, but no curb and gutter on the
Okay.
back end of it.
That's right.
Any other questions for the applicant? You have anything else?
Not on this part.
All right. Anyone else in support or against this item? Is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
Make a motion to deny a variance request by Jason Canada, representing Highway 51 Mini Storage LLC, to allow I think it's supposed to be gravel, parking lot as shown in the attached exhibits on property located on the east side of US Highway 51, north of Illinois Central Railroad overpass and south of North Parkway in Section 12, Township 3 South, Range 8 West, based on the following findings, A through D.
Is there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Nay.
Commissioner Jordan,
Nay.
Commissioner Safley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mack,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Nay.
Commissioner Skeen.
Nay.
Okay, so you said what,
Said nay.
nay? So the motion to deny this item failed, so we need to see if it's another motion.
I motion to table. There's just a lot of discussion and thoughtful discussion, I appreciate it. But it's just some unknowns about whether or not there's gonna be a covered. Because my concern is approving a gravel and then the design comes back and says, oh, we've decided to cover it now, which changes the whole dynamic, right? So is there a way we could table this and then come back with a hard decision on what your plans are?
I believe that's reasonable to us. And then, yeah, I think we're,
I apologize. Ask the question again one more time. Sorry.
table it until next month. Yes.
If we can, yes, please.
Yeah, I think that will give us more time to hammer out some of the details about the long-term design. And then also maybe find more definable long-term solutions that protect the variance being able to move with the land and not just with our one property, a way to kind of protect it a little more.
Correct.
If we do continue want to go that route.
All right, do we have another motion?
Yeah. I
He motioned to table it.
You already did it, okay, second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Safley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mack,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Motion to table.
Skeen.
You leaving me out?
Okay, the motion to table this item passes. The next item, PL 1857, Highway 51 Mini Storage Variance. Request for a variance for a metal facade. The subject property is located east side of Highway 51, north of Memphis Street in Section 21, Township 3, Range 8, Zone C2, Morgan Falls, representing Highway 51 Mini Storage LLC. Mr. Cordova, present the planning staff comments and report.
Yes, sir. PL 1857, the same piece of property as the previous application, and the request is a variance from the design standards to allow a metal facade. The applicant is the same as application. The property is zone C2, and so is subject to the full design regulations of our commercial district, which is prohibit the metal facade for new construction. The same discussion criteria from the last application, and the applicant did provide responses to those. And then you could see on the attached building elevations of what their proposal is and what you would see from each facade. And so I think one of the questions from the last application would be that brick fence that's required. It's still shown on the eastern elevation. The metal facade, you can see the gray panels on the building is what they're asking for a variance on. And so the masonry fence is proposed at 6 feet in the back. And you can see that shows the limits of the building that would be exposed versus the masonry screen fence. And so Morgan Falls is here tonight, and then representing the application. One thing to note also is they did provide a screen site view for Highway 51 of what's there currently versus what you would see on the site, to give you a perspective of what would be visible from Highway 51, and the eastern property line would be the other side of that sight line. And so the request is for those gray metal panels in lieu of just a full brick facade. And I'm available if you've got any questions.
The question and Morgan may be able to answer this, I'm not sure. I guess, initially, what percentage, isn't there a percentage that we do allow without a variance for a metal facade?
You can do storefront, so like the frames of doors or a canopy, but there is a rule in the ordinance where 75% of the building has to be one material, one color. But there is language, if you go on, in commercial districts, metal facades are strictly prohibited. In industrial zoning, that does allow for metal panels without a variance.
Okay.
And the eastern wall is proposed, it's a 6-foot something brick fence. The homeowner here brought in a copy of the minutes from the last proposal where it's supposed to be 12.
Right there where it says it's a 12-foot fence.
So I think from the 22, the original approval, that's correct, because I think they proposed to use the wall of the building in lieu of the fence originally, because they're going to scoot the building all the way back and have the rear of the building against your property lines. I think that's where a lot of the drainage concerns came from also as well. But a 6 foot and the type 35 buffer is what required.
Okay. Oh, wait, that's just the.
Any other question, Mr. Cados?
And is it the same brick fence on the north also?
I don't want to answer wrong, so I would assume so, but yes.
Yeah, I think it's just not showing that elevation to allow you to see what the
Okay.
building facade would be.
Gotcha.
Because otherwise you would just be a wall again.
And the south as well. Does the south have a brick fence, or?
The south is not being shown with a brick fence, around the gravel area.
Why don't you come on back up?
Sorry. And this time the last one was more civil, so. Morgan Falls, Rockfoot Engineering, 6167 Kerbo Lane, and Rachel, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, Rachel Perrin with Nozar Development, developer, designer, and construction for storage facilities like this with office warehouse across the nation. I'm here to answer the questions about the building facade and our actual visualization from the street, which I think is a huge concern. But also with the south side and the east elevation. So the east elevation will be a building with the same building facade as the proposed 6-foot masonry fence along the north side of the building. And then the south side, where the gravel area is supposed to be intended for use, is going to be a normal fence, which is a normal wire fence.
A what fence?
So I apologize. What was the question for the south side?
So, yeah, on the north side, we were talking about
No.
yeah, on that elevation, it is there, it's just not showing the elevation to allow you to see the building
It
facade.
doesn't show it. It's hard to show it because what we wanted to show with the north elevation of Building B was actually show the building materials for Building B, which you will not be able to see because there's this dotted line that comes across it. That's a masonry screen fence. Also, there's a lot of natural vegetation there that we will not be touching because it's not on our property line. And even that is on our property line, we won't be touching. That kind of screens that in. So we are providing the masonry screening fence, which I do believe is definitely part of the ordinances, but I wanted to make sure that was seen. If you can zoom in on elevation Building B, north elevation Building A, it shows the dotted line for the fence.
I think this is mislabeled. It's supposed to be B. This is the east.
That, yes, yeah, I think that,
Yeah.
Because if the building has, I guess the question is, the building B, the building that's the most eastern building has a brick facade on the eastern
Yes.
face.
Correct. Yes, so
This is building B. This is not building A.
Okay, so that makes more
sorry,
sense.
I didn't even
makes more
notice
sense.
that until now. That explains a lot of the confusion. Yes, so the east side of building B is that brick, and the north side of building B will have the masonry screen wall. It just isn't represented there, so you can actually see the building itself.
So assuming that if the east side has it, the west side of building B is gonna have brick as well,
No, I think the west side of building B
will be the doors.
will be the same, because it'll have exterior access all along there, the front, just like that will. But the rear will not have any access to it. It'll only be access internally, that back portion of the building.
That clears up, so it was mislabeled, that's what clears up.
Okay, that makes more sense.
So there will be no drive aisle behind building B.
Correct.
No. Yes.
Not for use of the tenants.
Okay. And so the frontage of building B, the west side of building B, will it have a brick facade around the doors?
No, it will be consistent with what you see on the north elevation of
So
building.
that will be what building B looks like on the west side, the long side.
So 3 corners, 3 sides.
Yes.
And the only brick facade on building B is the,
It's the back,
East
which,
side.
yeah, which is actually facing the residential.
But you said there's gonna be a drive around the back.
No, there will not be a drive around the rear.
Okay, so it won't be connected to the wall, or it will be connected to the wall? The back wall?
It will be.
It will be.
That's what
Okay.
prevents the drive access around. But, so that's mislabeled, and the western facade of building B will be this. Sorry, the metal, full metal facade.
Yes.
Or,
But that's what will be between building A and building B.
that's right.
Correct.
I think on both sides.
Yeah, it'll face this.
That's okay, that top one, that's the eastern facing, not the western.
You're
facing.
correct, you're right. So you're right.
I think we're at a point, I'm sorry to get ahead, but I think we're at a point we have to table this one as well, because we can't have this go on record if it's this much confusion
Yeah.
on labeling and which building is which, and
Even the drive aisle, because now that we're looking at it too, I was under the assumption that this fence would go here, because it shows that on the thing. And she's saying that this connects. So if you look at,
Correct.
I think there's some confusion on maybe the application too. So if you look at the brick masonry wall that's labeled here is showing to continue.
Can I ask which elevation?
Oh,
the elevation I'm
that's
looking
the edge
at
of the
has
buffer
west
yard,
elevation
the fence
building A,
continuing.
north elevation building B,
This is the
north
fence
elevation
line
building
turning.
A, and then east elevation building B. Are we looking at north elevation building B? Is that the issue?
East elevation building A is mislabeled it's supposed to be east elevation building B.
Okay, I apologize for that. I thought we updated those plans and sent the corrected, because I actually did catch that. And I thought I sent the corrected one. I am so sorry. Yeah, so east elevation building B, just so we know, and we can table absolutely, I 100% agree with that, will be 100% brick facade with a small, like little tiny inches of metal building that you see above it, but there's also huge landscaping behind it. And then on north elevation building B, you will also have a wall, a 6-foot masonry wall that matches the back of building B. So residential will not be able to see the back of building B except for a masonry wall and landscaping. And then the front, which is north elevation and west elevation of building A that you can see from the road of Highway 51, you will see a brick facade.
Okay.
So that's what you should be seeing. And I apologize for not giving that. I thought that I sent that in. I apologize for that.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right,
I don't have a question about the facade.
okay, you're good. Anyone supporting against the item, please come forward.
I was gonna
Name and
ask
address.
Tammy Shoneyfelt, 71 North Parkway, about the lighting around the gravel area. Is that gonna be tall lighting since we'll have RVs and things in there? Or do you? That's not facade, I know that, but
Austin may be.
They didn't include on the variance, we do require that all lighting be downturned or shielded, and it can't spill on, at all. And so, if they wanted a tall light, it'd have to come back for a variance.
Anyone else support against this item? Is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
I make a motion to table for
Make a motion to,
table.
Table.
a second?
Until the next meeting?
Okay, to,
Next meeting.
Oh, yeah, I'm sorry, yeah, to the December meeting. Just because there's incorrect data. Incorrect.
all right, there a second?
Second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorn,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Aye.
Commissioner Sadley,
Aye.
Commissioner Mack,
Aye.
Commissioner Ashburn,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeener.
Aye.
The motion to table this item passes to the next second Tuesday in December.
When?
Second Tuesday in December.
Be the
And
10th.
on your second.
The 10th.
The 10th.
10th of December?
Yes, sir. Same time, same place.
All right, the next one is PL 1858, Winningham Subdivision Section G. Request for a final plat approval of 2 lots, north side of Nesbit Road, east of Gwynn Road, north of Nesbit Road, in Section 28, Section 26, Township 2, South, Range 8, West. Lloyd Miller, representing Winingham Estates, LLC. Mr. Cadola, please present the planning staff comments and report.
Yes, sir. This is PL 1858, Section G of Winningham Estates subdivision. Skip Miller, Lloyd Miller Jr. is the owner of Winningham Estates. Andy Richardson's his engineer, and he's here tonight representing the application. Tonight's application is just 2 lots at the end of an existing stubbed-out street at the location listed in the staff report. And I did include all the previous phases of Winningham when they were approved and recorded in your staff report. This is subject to the Winningham PUD covenants, which will be recorded as a joinder to this plat, and the setbacks are listed in your staff report. I did put a brief description of the general requirements of the brick exterior and minimum home sizes in your staff report as well. So if you look on the, I'll pull it up so we can all see it together, but if you look on the aerial map, originally, this phase of the subdivision was proposed to connect with a street that went all the way to Andy's Way. And so this was proposed originally to come all the way through. As a part of a previous phase, they just dedicated that as common open space to be hosted as some benches and a walking trail to connect the sidewalk system throughout the subdivision. And so what that created is the original Winningham Drive stub was stubbed into an open area. And so they provided for a temporary turnaround for a cove to be constructed and 2 additional lots to be backed up, where previously this was a row of lots, it'll just be the 2. That common open space was recorded with the last phase. In this conditions in your staff report are standard conditions for approval and the proposed motion. I did talk to the engineer prior to the meeting, and on the southern corner of the lot, of that lot 237, there's an existing drainage inlet that was not reflected in a drainage easement, so I recommended that be included, and he's okay with reflecting that as an easement on the plat, just to protect it for future maintenance. And then item 2 would be the requirement of that joinder to make sure the covenants are filed just before the final plat's recorded, to make sure these match the existing sections of the subdivision. Other than that, the standard conditions of approval, and this is for 2 additional lots in the Winningham subdivision final plat, and I'm available if you got any questions.
Any other questions from Mr. Cadola from the commissioners? Would the applicant please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety?
Andy Richardson with R&H Engineering, 231 West Center Street, and I'll be happy to answer any questions y'all have.
So the rest of it's gonna be, I guess, deeded to the homeowners association, or is it already been?
It already, well, I don't
It's
know
a
if it's
previous
been deeded.
phase.
It was a previous phase. I don't know that it's been deeded yet, probably not.
At some point.
Yeah, eventually. And the reason the road didn't cut through is the original PUD was done over 20 years ago, I guess without any topographic information. They just took the boundary, chopped the property up. Well, they didn't take into regard, there's a main flow path coming right through there, so you gotta.
Nobody's gonna live right there.
That's right, nobody's gonna live there, and there's really, can't do anything else there. But this allows access to that common open space, having that cul-de-sac there. Whereas right now, it's just a dead-end street.
Any other questions for that? Thank you. Anyone in support or against this item, please come forward. Is there a motion to approve the now table this item?
I make motion to grant final plat approval for Winningham Estates Subdivision Section G, consisting of 2 single-family residential lots east of Gwynn Road, north of Nesbit Road in Section 25 and 26, Township 2 South, Range 8 West, based upon finding that the submitted plat approval generally conforms to the requirements of the city codes ordinances, subject to the following conditions, 1 through 13.
Yes, sir.
Second.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne?
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan?
Aye.
Commissioner Safley?
Aye.
Commissioner Max?
Aye.
Commissioner Ashworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen?
Aye.
Motion to approve this item passes. The next item is PL 1859 Gilbert PUD, Phase 1. Request for final plat approval of 48 total lots and 5 common open space lots located on the southwest corner of Holly Springs Road and Gateway Road in Section 21, Township 3 South, Range 7 West. Greg Smith, representing owner. Ms. Cardoza, please present the Planning Commission report and comments.
Yes, sir. This is PL 1859. It's the first phase of Gilbreth PUD. Greg Smith is tonight with Mendrop Engineering Resources, representing Butch Davis, the property owner. This lot has 48 total lots, 5 of which are common open space. It was approved for PUD by the Planning Commission at June 21st, 2022. And the setbacks in your staff report are listed as dictated by the PUD, but the minimum lot size in the subdivision is 9,600 square feet. The minimum home square footage is 2,400 square feet. A little bit about the application as a whole, with this being the first phase. I did include a couple of excerpts from the PUD that show the ultimate plan. As construction's ongoing, it's a little hard to see now, but the public right-of-way improvements do include a lane and a half, a streetscape of plantings, and then a masonry fence with brick columns along the frontage of Holly Springs Road. And if you'll notice on the plat, that's what this long, narrow strip along Holly Springs Road is a common open space easement to help the future maintenance of that landscape planting along Holly Springs Road and to provide a buffer against the back of these fences that you could potentially see in the future. Their cluster box location is planned with 4 parking spaces at the entrance. The mailbox area also located in a common open space area. And then the secondary connection is proposed to tie into Jefferson, but we would ask for a condition that all construction traffic use Holly Springs Road and not the existing subdivision of Jefferson. It'd be kind of a snaky way. I don't think it'd be realistic for them to use it, but it might be good to include a condition that Holly Springs Road is the primary access for construction. Construction is ongoing, and the city engineer is monitoring the progress of all installations of public utilities. And the conditions in your staff report are standard conditions. And I'm available if you've got any questions.
Any questions, Mr. Doze? The applicant, please come forward and state your name and address in its entirety.
Greg Smith, 2595 Country Club Road. I'm a Mendrop. Nothing to add unless you have questions with me. We agree with the staff report and agree to do everything in it.
I do. I went back and pulled the minutes, or I had Kristen and Austin pull the minutes when this was initially approved as a PUD. And, because I remembered, and I've driven by there several times and noticed how there's no trees.
Yes, sir.
Everything's gone. And how, whenever we approved that initially, all the trees on Holly Springs Road, the minutes state, I mean, you stated then that all the trees on Holly Springs Road were gonna be left.
I believe I stated, I believe all we could save, all we could. But with the slope on that road and the lane they made us add, there just wasn't no saving them.
According to the minutes, you stated they are trying to save as many trees as possible. He added that the trees along Getwell and Holly Springs will remain, as well as the trees around the pond.
That just must have been a misstatement because we had to add a lane and that's where the trees are. So they had like the existing lane and you had like 4 or 5 foot and you had a little ditch and you had a line of trees there. So I must have just misspoke. I wasn't trying to deceive anybody.
There wasn't any trying to save as many trees as possible, the way they were all bulldozed when the lots were.
Well, I can't do nothing about it at this point. It's just say I'm sorry, and they did the best they could. We designed it in such a way they tried to save as many trees as you can, but when you have 9,000-foot lots, unless you're in a common space, you're realistically not gonna save a tree.
Is there an extra lane on Holly Springs, or is that the extra lane on Getwell?
Both. Well, I don't know about Getwell. This one we're dealing with right now is Holly Springs, and it does have an extra line, yes, sir.
I mean, I want to go back, so I mean, you're saying there wasn't any way really good to save the trees, but you told us there was, that you were gonna try to save the trees. So it sounds like you misled us last time.
No, sir.
That's how I feel.
No, sir.
That's
Well,
how
I
I feel.
apologize you feel that way. That ain't my intention, and I don't mislead people. Not intentionally, anyway. That's not who I am, so.
Well, yeah, and I remember too, because when all that got clear cutted, the lady just south of that, her farm, her entire farm got flooded, and she almost lost her horses.
Right.
Because of all the runoff and all that.
Butch cut a ditch along the south line, going
After
east
the
to
fact.
west, to divert most of that water away from him. And I think he met with them on site and done a little work on the property to get it back in line. And I think he done some work on a pond too. And I believe.
Yeah, I remember that, because it almost destroyed that entire property.
Yeah, I believe that he settled with them. And I don't know the means of that. I do know he cut a ditch and done some work on the property. So I think I have to check with Butch on that, but I think that he made them happy about the situation, or happy as I could be.
Something you may want to consider, Commissioner Jordan, is maybe doubling up the plantings on the new common open space along Holly Springs Road. Right now, they're on 50-foot centers. You might could double it. It'd be a pretty easy thing to do, I think, in the common open space.
That's something we'd be amenable to.
Wait, say that again, Austin? I was trying to catch
So right now, the streetscape along Holly Springs Road, in that common open space, they're proposing to plant some trees on 50-foot centers. Maybe a consideration y'all want to do is increasing that.
Okay.
That's along Holly Springs Road.
Yes, sir.
I just want to be sure there's no confusion too. I noticed on the PLAT, I think it's supposed to be common open space, but it says future development on,
That's
not the page that's pulled up right there.
That's just in general. That's a note stuck over there saying this is part of the plats in the future. That odd shape going through the middle there, that will be common space. It's a big, pretty good sized existing ditch that goes through there. I think I know the piece you're talking about.
Oh, yeah.
I've got it right here.
It says, yeah, you
Yeah,
said
that's
future
it.
development. Yeah, that doesn't mean that that's gonna be cut into a lot. That just means that's the future phase. That'll be a big common space right there.
Any other questions for the applicant? All right, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Going on to Commissioner Jordan just said, do we need to clarify that future development is in fact common open space?
It's not included in this plat. I think the note is to say that is a piece of the next phase. And so it doesn't have any bearing on
It doesn't
what's
have any
being
bearing
platted
on this
now.
one. Okay.
Is there a motion to approve, deny, or table this item?
What did we want to put extra into the, adding a 100-foot setback?
No, Austin had suggested possibly for the trees on the landscaping on Holly Springs Road. I think it's currently set for 50-foot intervals. He thought about maybe decreasing that to add more trees,
Decreasing it, okay, excuse me.
because there was some trees there that got wiped out.
What is this, Austin, the tree planting detail? Public right, this 15-foot streetscape.
That's the common open space along Holly Springs Road. And so right now, if you can see here, the maples are on 50 foot on center. If you did that, double them up, they'd be 25 of them on center, that'd be double the number of trees.
Oh, I see it there. I didn't see that. I see the 50 foot on center. 6-foot high wood fence with masonry columns. And then trees on the front side, on the right-of-way side.
Mm-hmm.
This says 6-foot high wood fence with masonry columns 50 feet on center. Okay, is that right, Greg? Is it 50, the columns?
It doesn't have any reference to the width of the trees that I can see, it's just like the column. I think it calls for trees, unless I'm just mistaken.
I was just thinking
No, it does say.
the 50 foot on center with the
It does say
trees.
50 foot on center. I mean, if we wanna go, add to that, we don't have a problem with that. I think we probably gonna do more than that anyway. We can go on record.
Space because it was woods in this neighbor. I think it was Brian Hill. Yeah.
You could ask for a kind of a more detailed planning plan along that public right-of-way.
Was there something more detailed in the PUD? I don't remember. I mean, I guess not, because it's changed now.
Yeah, that's directly from the PUD.
What does that mean? I see the single row of red maple trees centered within lawn area, 50 feet off center. Is that gonna mess up the centering? What does that mean, centered?
On center, means every 50 foot.
Every
I
50.
mean, okay, just every 50 foot on center. It doesn't have anything to do with the layout
It just
of the
means
lots.
center to center of the trees, 50 foot apart, what that means.
And then
And
center,
it's
No, what I meant was the centered within lawn area. That's what I'm.
middle of the 15 feet.
And it's really, that's typically what they do, but it doesn't really spell it out. Typically, put them right in the middle of it.
That's 15-foot streetscape in the middle.
I think so.
That's, okay. Will the HOA be responsible for the fence or the individual homeowners?
HOA will take care of everything in common areas.
This, on this landscape detail that shows the fence on the residential side?
It's gonna be at the backside of the 53-foot right of way from the
Okay,
backside.
that's not in the privately owned lot.
It's gonna be right along the property line, more than likely. But no, sir, it will not be in the private side of it.
It'd be an HOA.
Yes, HOA.
There a motion?
I'll make a motion to grant final plat approval to Greg Smith of Mendrop Engineering Resources representing Ridgestone LLC, Butch Davis, the property owner for Gilbert Fudd, Phase 1 consisting of 48 total lots and 5 common open spaces, lots based upon the finding that the final plat approval generally conforms with the city codes and ordinances, subject to the following conditions. The 11, and then on the change for the 50-foot on center on the red maples to 25-foot. So to basically double up their those. Is that good with you?
I'm gonna vote nay anyway, so go ahead.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Clark,
Aye.
Commissioner Thorne,
Aye.
Commissioner Jordan,
Nay.
Commissioner Saffold,
Aye.
Commissioner Mack,
All right.
Commissioner Ashworth,
Aye.
Commissioner Skeen.
Aye.
Motion to approve this item passes. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right.
So, somebody doesn't have to